What's going on, everybody? LK here, and today I want to talk about Guilty Gear propaganda. So I have three things, they're all character related, that I keep hearing. I just want to share my thoughts on a couple of these things. I'm going to use this image to start us off. So this is a tier list I made just after EPO. So it's not built the usual way. Normally you'll see like S, A, B, C, however people want to spread out the letters to describe the character power and how good they feel like characters are overall in the game. However, I wasn't really thinking about the game like that at the time, so I made this wins, like constantly winning events, relevant characters, so characters that you have to worry about if you're thinking about competing at all. Counterpick characters, so characters that are a little bit more niche picks, that are just good against specific characters or good in specific situations. And then your straight up niche picks, where these are characters that are only really good at one thing, or other characters do what they do, so they're not really that relevant as far as tournament play. So since then, I think I would actually adjust this a few ways, but this is not a tier list video. I want to specifically address a couple of things about characters that I feel like get parroted a lot. So again, I have three things. So the first one is about Lord Axel. So on most tier lists you'll probably see Axel rated like bottom 3, bottom 4, depending on how the person thinks about the character power in the game. So I'm starting to think that this is a lie. I don't think Axel is in the weakest group of characters. Basically go as high as putting him as just a straight up relevant character. I don't think you can perform at tournaments without being able to fight him well. And I also think he's a pretty strong counterpick. I don't think he's so strong that you could use him solo, even though most of the strong performing Axels can and do that to the best of their ability. But in the terms of looking at him versus the game's cast, I definitely see him performing well in just like a bunch of matchups that are important, or at least being able to mitigate certain neutral things about the matchup. And this game is really determined by neutral, because if you can't win neutral, then you get put in your opponent's strong situation and then you die, just like a typical Guilty Gear game. So you see this in his ability to stave off Leo. When I played Axel, I practiced Leo heavily, and I found that to be slightly in Leo's favor, but only because of his meter advantage and what he can do with meter. Many people think Axel versus Nago is even, or maybe slight advantage at best, and it's a pretty agreed upon fact that Axel beats Zato straight up, and Zato is a very, very important character to be good against in tournament. He's good against a couple of relevant characters as well. So he's good against Faust, for example. He's pretty decent against Jacko. Pretty good against Testament. Good against Kyle as well. So generally the reason why people don't think Axel is that great is that his damage is not that high, so he's not good at building meter, and he's generally negative on everything. And dash blocking is a really, really strong strategy against him in neutral. However, I think his neutral control plus the matchups that I think he is good at really take him. It's hard to say that straight up. Like when you can compare him with like Anji or Potemkin, listing the characters that he does well, or like theoretically does well, or is like slight disadvantage, is totally different than talking about a character like Potemkin's matchup spread or even Milia's matchup spread. So number 2 is about Gold Lewis Dickinson. So this list here is not really ordered, but the next thing I definitely want to say is comment on people who think Gold Lewis is not top tier. So he's one of those like ... question marks, kind of like Biken, where he has all the things that should make him like an S tier character, but just no tournament performance. But unlike Biken or Testament, so in Testament's case, we know of a couple of really strong Testaments, let's say in my region, North America. However, they don't compete very often. Biken, usually what people say is that like the strongest Bikens don't really compete that often either. Jacko actually has some pretty good tournament rep. So there's Nitro New York, and then there's also Adventure, who tend to have pretty good results. And of course, Happy Chaos as a DLC character, you see him all the time. So Gold Lewis, out of these, Gold Lewis actually, I feel like he does have a good amount of tournament representation, but he doesn't just get all the way to the end. I wonder if it's mostly that, let's say in the previous patch, he had to deal with Nago because there was the 2H problem. But in this patch, I know they nerfed that, so is that still so much of a problem? Character power wise, I hear very widespread between people thinking he's like the 6th best character in the game, or just like they kind of jokingly call it like 7-Eleven, like just somewhere in between that range, which is definitely relevant, but probably not winning unless something like lucky happens. However, I'm personally kind of leaning towards him being 6th, and just like we just need like a Darkrai type to be at tournaments more. He's a really, really scary character to run into tournaments, and he gets rewarded for losing. That's probably the thing that drives me the craziest about him. Like, his offense is really strong, he does a ton of damage, and then when he's losing, he's still building resource, so he's able to turn the game around really, really, really fast. I think we should expect some more good Gold Lewis runs this season. And to be honest, we do already have Gold Lewis in Arc Revo in Gobo, despite him playing 2 characters, Zato and Gold Lewis. Then the last one I want to talk about is the buffs juice, right? So in Season 2, there is a group of buffs that many characters got. That when people saw these, they're like, oh, this character is automatically like high tier, top tier. These are things like far/faster and disjointed, 2S faster disjointed, 5H faster disjointed. Characters like Kyle, Milia, Anji, Baiken, Testament all have these changes. Another one would be like this move's total duration got reduced, or this move's recovery got reduced as well. The only thing they told us is that they made it disjointed, or they made it faster, or they reduced this or whatever. But these changes just normalizes the characters versus the top tiers rather than make them actually top tier. I feel like the biggest example of this straight up is Kyle. In the case of Milia, for example, Milia got a bunch of these changes, but then a bunch of changes. Like, no one knew what the other changes would do. That's kind of just the type of character she is, right? But Kyle basically got this, plus a couple of other changes. But people were like, oh snap, it's top tier Kyle time. Maybe you should consider switching to Kyle, things like that. But these didn't change his main flaws. The main flaws we generally talk about is that he's usually disadvantaged on his own offense. So he has to take risks and play in the mid-range in order to keep himself safe and use space traps to threaten the opponent. Where characters like Baiken or Testament, they got these changes too, but they also got a bunch of other changes to their kit that make them far more threatening. A good example is Testament's H Fireball in the air. So because of this change, they're able to combo off it off their 50-50 situation of instant air dash JH or land 2K. Baiken is another one. So Baiken got changes, for example, where she can meet you after parrying out, like run up and meet you, or the follow-up of her H Kabaddi can't be 6P'd or low profiled anymore, or her S Kabaddi being +2 instead of 0, or her 5P being faster now. So she got a bunch of additional changes along with the standard changes that many other characters got. So in the future, if we see one of these again where they apply like a change universally or near universally across the cast, it would definitely help to be a little bit more patient to see how it plays out with the character, rather than just saying like they got the juice right away. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these 3 things. These 3 things have been on my mind quite a bit. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.